Hello and welcome to Senior Journal. My name is Paul Roberti. I am your host. My guest today is Sandi Sotis of Friends of Homeless Animals of Rhode Island. Sandi, thank you for taking the time out to be on Senior Journal.
Thank you.
And to discuss what is Friends of Homeless Animals and what is the mission of the program.
Friends of Homeless Animals is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit dog rescue organization right here in Rhode Island. It was originally founded many, many years ago by Roe Griego, who's a local resident. She's actually still the president of Friends of Homeless Animals. And when you call the Friends of Homeless Animals website, there is a phone number attached to it. You will actually talk to Roe directly, and she will direct you she can help you adopt a dog through our organization. And our mission is very simple. It's overwhelming, but very simple. We'd like to end the suffering, the abuse, the neglect, and the euthanasia of dogs in the United States.
Okay, but it does say Friends of Homeless Animals. Now, do you go outside of even just canines and get in other animals as well?
Right now, we particularly do dogs. There are other organizations that center around cats, okay, but we particularly do dogs right now.
And how far does your network extend to? Are you just in Rhode Island, or do you go outside of Rhode Island and get dogs outside of Rhode Island?
I would say about 90% of our dogs are actually outside of Rhode Island. Our priority are local dogs. Owner surrenders. For whatever reason, people leave and they cannot take their dogs with them. They have a new baby, for whatever issue. So we prioritize. Our local dogs will come into our rescue immediately. Mm-hmm. Most of our dogs are from the South, where the spay and neuter practices are not followed like we do here in New England.
Okay, now that's one issue, spading and neutering. Is it also the economics?
Yes.
Does that get involved in the issue as well as?
Without a doubt, right.
It does.
Right.
And is it more prevalent down south because of the economy down south is not as good as it is here in the north?
There's many reasons,
okay,
and there's also a cultural difference. We treat our dogs, our pets in New England particularly, pretty much from New Jersey all the way on up to Maine, like family members. In the South, they are treated, and I hate to generalize like that, but they're treated in a different way.
Okay, now you did mention that you're a 501(c) nonprofit organization. How are you funded?
We are strictly 100% volunteer base, 100% donation base. So each of the dogs that is adopted carries with it an adoption fee. That adoption fee varies from $99 up to maybe $500, $600, depending on the type of dog, the breed of the dog, the age of the dog.
All right, and you are operated on a volunteer basis. You need volunteers, correct?
Absolutely.
And that's one of the reasons why you're here on Senior
Correct.
Journal, hopefully to get some of my viewers out there to want to be able to volunteer for your organization. All right, now, how many animals do you take in approximately in the course of a year? And I know it depends on the number of volunteers, so how many volunteers do you have currently?
Right, we have about 200 to 300 volunteers, and their commitment of volunteerism, it ranges. Some people are actually foster moms or dads, and they actually have the dogs right in their homes. The number of volunteers we have correlates directly to the number of dogs we can save. So the more foster volunteers we get, the more people willing to open their homes to the dogs will save so many more lives. We can't bring the dog up from the South until we have a place for it to go. We don't have a brick and mortar building, so each of the dogs is housed inside of our own private homes.
And then is it the job of the volunteer, the foster mom and dad of this animal to go out and find a home for it? Is it their responsibility as well to do that? Or do you have someone within the organization that's the only function that they have?
Yeah. Well, all the dogs, once they're brought up from the South, there's a whole process involved. Once the dogs are brought up, before they're brought up, actually, they're vetted down in the South usually. Every dog will be up to date on its vaccines. Every dog will be spayed and neutered. We actually then place the dog on a USDA transport. transport. And then would be your responsibility as the foster mom to go retrieve the dog. We have special places, pickup places throughout the United States along the East Coast where you would go physically pick up the dog, which is an amazing sight. This big tractor trailer rolls up and people are lined up through direct adoption or foster moms. Everyone patiently waits in line as each dog is brought off the truck. And there's usually an applause or an ooh and an ah
so
or
how
a
many
big
dogs,
thank you.
excuse me, but how many dogs come in at one time, perhaps?
About 150.
At
every
one
week.
time, every week you take in
Right.
150
Not just from
dogs.
us, not just from Friends of Homeless Animals. There are many rescue groups.
Oh, there
that
are other
all-
groups out there
Correct.
similar to this
Absolutely.
organization. Oh, I
Yes.
didn't really even
Yeah.
realize
Yeah.
that. So 150 dogs come in, and whereabouts are they coming?
From the south.
From
They're
the south
Kentucky.
to,
Yeah.
and where in Rhode Island do they land?
They live,
approximately?
well, we have one place in Maine.
Okay.
They're all usually park and rides, so it's easy for the tractor trailer to get in and out.
Right.
There's another one in Plainfield, Moosup, Connecticut, and then there's several in New Jersey, New York area as well.
And people just come
It's
and they line
amazing.
up to pick up these animals.
You know, all that would have been euthanized. All would have, yeah.
And approximately how long do they stay in the home of the volunteer?
Well, that's a great question because it depends upon the dog you're fostering. We have puppies, which are highly, highly adoptable, and people around the Rhode Island as well as the New England area all want puppies. So those puppies tend to stay in your house maybe a week. We cannot, by law, adopt a puppy out unless it's 8 weeks old. They have to be vaccinated. Most of them will be spayed and neutered before we adopt them out. Rhode Island has very strict regulations.
That's what I was going to ask you
Very,
next.
very strict.
Yeah, what are some of the regulations that Rhode Island requires before a dog can come in?
They have to be vaccinated.
Okay.
They have to be free of any disease. They need a health certificate as well by a licensed veterinarian with wherever in that state where they originate from to be placed on the USDA transport. If they are on the transport, then they can come directly into somebody's home or be directly adopted. If the dog does not come up on a transport, they have to be isolated. And I am an isolation facility. We would have to be registered with the state of Rhode Island as a licensed isolation facility. We want to make sure that we're not bringing dogs up that are sick to get the other dogs sick as well.
Right. And now who can become a volunteer? And is there any kind of training for this person to become a volunteer for the organization? So first,
Anybody.
who can be?
Anybody can become a volunteer.
All you have to do is want to become a volunteer and have this love for dogs and for animals.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's an application right on the FOHA.org website for the application for the to become a volunteer. And there's all different levels of commitment as volunteering. We can't expect everybody to be a foster volunteer, and that's fine, although that's really what we're looking for, more foster moms and dads who can open their home to a dog. We also have a lot of administration work that could be done. If you don't want to have a dog in your house or you can't have a dog in your house, we just need somebody who is able to have access to a computer. Because we don't have an actual physical building, everything is done over the internet and through telephone or texting or email communication.
Approximately how much time per week do you spend
Oh my goodness.
doing this with this organization?
More than anything else in my life.
Really?
Yes, yeah. And that's the other, it depends on, a lot of people don't have the time that I do right now. I'm in a different season in my life, and we have a lot of younger volunteers that work full time, and they still afford time to volunteer. Whatever capacity is welcomed.
And you said off camera before we started the show that you do quite a bit of traveling
Yes.
with this organization to go and pick up dogs, correct?
Correct, right.
You go down south, pick up dogs, and bring them back, and so you're pretty involved. And you've been doing this for how long now?
About 7 years now.
7 years.
Yeah, about
And
7
what
years.
made you, and how did you get involved in this organization?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Paul, because I happened to be in Attleboro and finding tile. It's a very interesting story. Getting some tile to redo my kitchen, and I heard a little sound in a dumpster. Wasn't sure what it was, and so I very gently lifted up the dumpster with a stick that I found, and nothing came out. I thought it was going to be a raccoon or something. When I looked inside, there was a little dog sitting inside there. I didn't anticipate getting a dog. I really didn't want a dog. I was a single mom at this time. I dove right in, picked up the dog, and she was all but a pound or so right in my hand. Her eyes were still closed, so we knew that she was very young. I handed the dog to my daughter, and I said, now what? And we forgot about the tile, and we went right, and we got dog supplies, and little Roxy has changed our lives, and that's how I got involved in it.
So that was your first one in to the family.
Right.
Okay, now I become a volunteer. How much time and how much funding is it going to cost me to be a volunteer for Friends of Homeless Animals of Rhode Island?
All the vetting is paid for through Friends of Homeless Animals. So anytime, all the vetting should be done prior to you actually receiving the dog. But things come up when you have the dog in your house, and some dogs are adopted right away. Other dogs take a lot longer to adopt because there are some issues with them. And then you would have to, but Friends of Homeless Animals would pick up all of the vetting bills on that particular dog. We ask that you pay for the food that it would take and some of the grooming. We do have people here that will groom the dogs for half price or nothing. So we ask that you use those. But if you choose to go to your own groomer, you would have to pay for that. And if you couldn't afford the food, I would provide food for you. I do have some folks that will donate food to help support the dogs in your home.
Terrific. Once again, my guest today is Sandi Sotis she's a volunteer for this organization, Friends of Homeless Animals of Rhode Island. They have a great website that I went and visited just to find out a little bit more about your organization. It's very comprehensive. So if you want to see their website, it's www.FOHARI.org. You can contact the organization directly by calling 401-234-4499. All right, I want to become a volunteer. Can I pick the dog that I want?
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Because a lot of folks live in restricted areas. They can only take a dog under 10 pounds, or they have allergies, and so they want a hypoallergenic dog. Each Monday, we have a wonderful volunteer named Diana, and she will send out an email list of all the dogs looking for a foster home. Remember, we can't take the dogs up here until we have a place for them to go. And you would pick from that list of the dog. You read a little bio about the dog, and you say, hey, that's a perfect fit for me. And all you do is respond to the email. And then from there, the dog would be probably coming up on Saturday through the transport.
Okay. Do you ever do any kind of fundraising or have some type of a outing or something like that to promote the organization? Because this is not one of the questions that I have, but I was just wondering about that.
Yes, we do. And right on our website, friendsofhomelessanimalsri.org, all the events under the event tab will have all of the things that we have in the next month or two.
What's
planned.
Coming up? Do you have any idea what's on the list right now?
We have the huge Always Adoption event at Clark's Farm in Matunic, Rhode Island, which Louise Anderson is in charge of that. And she actually takes all the folks from around Rhode Island, not just our rescue, but all the rescues involved, have an opportunity to get their dogs adopted there. There's about 200 to 300 dogs physically at the farm that day. And folks come in. It is an amazing sight to see people lined up, 2,000 people lined up outside just to get in to see these dogs. And when you realize all these dogs would have been euthanized. My little rescue angel in Mississippi actually sent me a picture of the people waiting in line to give their dogs up to the shelter to be euthanized, usually through the gas chamber, unfortunately. And there was a line. It was like a deli counter. Everybody had a line, and there was a line of folks in Mississippi just waiting in there to give up their dogs. And think of that, and then the 2,000 people waiting in line to adopt a dog right here in New England. It is amazing. It's just amazing.
Sandi, what does it do for you to be a volunteer? I try to tell my viewers this every time we do a show. How does it make you feel inside? I mean, why should they want to take an animal into their home?
It gives you a new purpose in life. I've had many seasons in my life, and in this one, as a mother, I have a nurturing gene that, now that my children are out on their own, this has fulfilled that part where I can do something for somebody else that will never say thank you, never repay me. And you know.
And a dog is a man's best friend, by the way, or a woman's best friend in this case.
Yes. Unconditional love, Paul, unconditional
It
love.
always gives back no matter what. Okay. Once you are committed, what is the process to get ready for the adoption? What is the whole, from the very beginning to the time I get the dog, what is involved?
Well, first the dog, if it's a local dog, we would ask that you go pick up the dog locally. And then we want you to assess the dog. Dogs do not behave typically in shelters as they would in a home environment. It's a very scary place for dogs. The smells, the sounds, they're alone a lot, it's dark. They're frightened. They don't know what's going on, especially dogs that come from a home setting and are put into a shelter. It's really a shock for them. So we ask you to assess the dog. If the dog is coming from the south, the dog will be vetted and you will be picking up the dog. You have a little more history about the dog. But if you're picking up a dog locally, we ask you to assess the dog. Write a little bio about the dog. You may want to wait a day or two. You may want to wait a week. We ask you to take some new pictures of that dog and then submit them to, we have a special email that you would submit that information to. And then each of those dogs will be posted on petfinder.com, Adopt a Pet, as well as the Friends of Homeless Animals website. We would include your name if you would like and a telephone number so that any inquiries about that dog would be directed towards you. Since you're going to be the person that knows that dog best, we think it's best that you answer any questions about that dog.
Is there any downtime with the animal between the time that they're transported or the time you find them here in Rhode Island? Is there any downtime with the animal between the time you physically get the dog and the time that they are actually put into a home with a volunteer? Any downtime there, or
well, that would depend.
Does it happen immediately?
Yeah, that depends upon the dog.
Okay.
We have a lot of dogs that just, we might have a puppy, we might have a mom that just had puppies. So there really are no issues with those puppies per se. They just have to be 8 weeks old.
Right.
So they might get adopted readily, easily. We also might have somebody who's surrendering their dog because the dog bit somebody or is growling at somebody. And so we want to assess, is it something that person did? Is it something that child did? Or is it truly an aggressive dog? There's a liability issue there too. So we really need to assess the dog in a different environment. And we tell everything we can to the inquiries too. We don't have a crystal ball. I tell all my adopters,
right.
We have no idea what they're going to do.
That was one of the next questions I wanted to ask you is, have you had issues with any of the animals? Perhaps, like, suppose I'm a volunteer and I get a dog into my home, and there is an issue with that dog. What are my options there?
Right, we're all volunteer based, so you have to understand, once you commit to a dog, we would love for you to stay through that commitment until they are actually adopted. But we understand things come up. There are personal issues that come up, or there might be an issue with their dog where you say, I'm not the best fit for this dog after all. So we do have a bunch of volunteers. They usually have other dogs, so we will maneuver, move, you take this dog and I'll take that dog. We try to accommodate everybody the best we can.
And what is the success rate of placing a dog into a permanent home?
Friends of Homeless Animals has anywhere between 700 and 1,000 dogs adopted each year. So that's that's right. And we do get dogs returned once in a while, and it's just part of the whole process. And we try to find them a better environment for that dog. And we usually end up finding that other person another dog that would fit better for them, because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how they're going to behave, and situations change.
Okay. Once again, my guest today is Sandi Sotis, volunteer from Friends of Homeless Animals of Rhode Island. You can reach them again at 401-234-4499. Their website, very comprehensive, will tell you everything that's going on within the organization, is www.fohari.org. Okay, let's go and venture into this one. How long does the adoption process take in general, from the beginning to the end?
Sure. Once you inquire about a dog, like I said, they're all posted. All the dogs up for adoption are on the Friends of Homeless Animals website, as well as Pet Finder, Adopt a Pet. So once you find a dog that you say you would want to adopt, we ask that you try to contact the foster mom or dad through, I prefer a conversation. A lot of the younger generation want to do only emails, but I want to talk to the person and tell them everything I can about the dog. If they want to meet the dog, then we will arrange for that person, the potential adopter, to come to my home or at a mutual public area to meet the dog, to say, hey, this is a dog that I relate to. It is what what everybody is saying. She is the right size, the right color, the right temperament, and I'd like to adopt that dog. There's an application process that is right on the internet, on our website as well. So an application to adopt, it's very similar to the application for fostering. Once you fill out that application, one of our volunteers would check the references on there. We ask for a personal reference and we ask for a vet reference. We call one of your friends as your personal reference to say, do you think Susie would make a great mom to this dog? And we just get a different side, an interesting opinion about those folks looking for dogs. We also call the vet. We need to make sure that your vet reference, the vet says, your present dog, if you have one, is up to date on its shots, is spayed and neutered, and on a monthly heartworm. That shows us that you're a responsible dog guardian to these dogs. They've been in horrible situations, and we want to put them in a situation where somebody is going to be responsible for them. Once we get those okay, we actually have a volunteer then go out to your home to do a home visit. They want to make sure that you're ready to accept this dog. You have things ready, dog food ready, and your yard is appropriate for this dog. And then you pick up the dog. It could be a day, it could be a week. It's usually within a couple of days, though, that the whole process takes place. It all depends on how many volunteers are available.
Right. And now, okay, so now I have the dog, okay, I'm the volunteer, and I want to go and place it with a permanent home. How much time do you actually spend with that family or that other individual before you actually hand the dog over? Yeah. How much time does that usually require? Before you feel comfortable that, okay, I can give this dog over to this person.
Well, and
that's a permanent home.
That comes with, the newbies have a hard time giving up the dog, that they've nurtured this whole way and have transformed into a dog that's going to be in a home now. I've been doing this for a while, and you feel it. They have a bed ready for the dog. They have toys. They have food waiting for the dog. They keep calling, when can we come get the dog? So it really depends upon the dog, upon you, how much time you have available, and how much time you want to spend. I tend to have the folks come directly to my home to meet the dog, and they spend a couple of hours with the dog. I let them take the dog for a walk. I also let them see how my dogs interact with this dog so that they can see what's going to happen. And if they have a dog, I ask for them to bring their other dog along. We have to make sure the two dogs get along too, and we always make them meet on a neutral territory. And so we'll see how then we also bring them in my home, and they'll sit on the couch and see how the dog relates to them in that way.
Okay. What else would you like the viewers to know about Friends of Homeless Animals of Rhode Island that you really haven't touched base on?
Well, I don't think the public realizes how many dogs are euthanized each year. The statistics say about 8 million pets enter the shelter system in the United States. 6 million will be euthanized. That's a tremendous amount of pets, So our goal is to just make the public aware, please do not breed your dogs. Please do not buy a dog. We have what's called commercial breeding facilities, which are better known as puppy mills, throughout the United States. And when you buy a dog from a store or online, 90% of them are coming from puppy mills, and puppy mills are just horrendous places. They are forced to breed the dog. The dogs are forced to breed every 63 days. A lot of the females are tied to boards and just forced to breed over and over again. We have 10-year-old, 13-year-old dogs that they are still breeding. They have never been to a vet. They may not have legs, they may not have eyes, but as long as they're able to have viable births, they will sell those dogs. Friends of Homeless Animals actually takes those dogs from puppy mills. We ask them that when the dog no longer produces puppies, they actually kill the dog in a very inhumane way, usually. So we ask them, give us those dogs. Let us take care of these dogs and give them some love. They are the most difficult dogs to have in our homes. They have never been touched by a human hand that was kind. They have never eaten out of a food bowl. Their paws are splayed from being kept on chicken wire. They have never been in a house. They don't know what a couch is or what a toy is. And it's very difficult. I've had many, many of those dogs. And when you see the transformation in them, it is amazing. It is the most rewarding thing that I can do as a volunteer. So I'm just asking that you just please really look at rescue. I think rescue dogs have gotten a bad rap as being dogs with issues. We certainly have dogs with issues, but we also have dogs that are just really in a bad environment that just need somebody to give them a chance.
And you get very different diversifications of different breeds of dogs across the board.
We even get purebred dogs.
You do?
Yes, we have purebred dogs. We have puppies. And puppy is usually from 2 weeks old, which we can't adopt out until 8 weeks old, all the way up to about 2 years, about a year and a half. We call that a puppy. We call babies the really tiny ones.
And you
adult
need
dogs.
Volunteers not only to take dogs in and be a foster parent of a dog, but also to do other administrative duties within the organization. You need volunteers to help keep the organization viable and keep it up and running and going on a daily basis. I mean, it must take quite a bit of human volunteer people who want to get involved to keep this organization going and taking in 7,000 dogs a year. I can imagine the teamwork it must take to do this.
Yep. And we're very passionate about what we do.
I can see it in your face.
And I just really want the public to know we've been very instrumental in getting a lot of the laws passed around Rhode Island now, where we're trying to make it illegal to sell a dog at a store in Rhode Island. Rhode Island, being the smallest state, is really leading the way, and now Massachusetts is looking at that law, and lots of other states are looking at that law. Most of the puppy mills come from the Midwest, but we do have puppy mills right here in Rhode Island, and we do have puppy mills along the East Coast. Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, with the Amish country, is one of our huge problem areas where they're producing a lot of dogs, and we're trying to stop that. Puppy mills produce about 6 million dogs a year, and 6 million dogs are euthanized every year. So we can see how there's lots of problems in this world that we will not resolve in our lifetime. This is one that can be easily resolved within a year or two if we put a moratorium on the commercial breeding facilities.
Okay. Once again, my guest today was Sandi Sotis, a volunteer for Friends of Homeless Animals of Rhode Island. You can reach them at 401-234-4499. Their website again is www.fohari.org. Sandi, thank you for taking the time to be on Senior Journal and telling the viewers out there that there is an organization such as yours that they can volunteer for, not only by taking an animal in, but also giving time back to the organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a great show.
Thank you.
You were a pleasure. Nice. Great job.